Okay. Welcome to the special meeting agenda and the Stillwater City Council Block 34 Citizens Task Force. They're sitting on the front row. And I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I'm going to introduce the members. We are going to start with, and if you just stand, Jim Beckstrom. Thank you for serving. Ariel Ross. Thank you for serving. Russ Tubner. Vicki Berry. And Kevin Fowler. Thank you all for serving, and we're going to, you're welcome to ask questions at any time. No, you can sit down there.
Simon says, yeah.
We really appreciate that you are here tonight and that you have so graciously agreed to serve this very important task force, and we look forward to what you're getting ready to do. We put a lot of time into this. We know that you will as well. And under our general orders, Mr. McNichol.
Purpose of this meeting is for the City Council and the Task Force to discuss the expectations pursuant to Resolution CC 17-11 that created the Task Force, and this is your opportunity to do that.
Okay. And before we establish a timeline, we can just go ahead and talk, or?
I think probably you need to, it seemed to be in order to take a look at the expectations and then establish a timeline, and you can vote or not vote, or if it requires a vote of the council, you are free to act on the items that are contained in the general orders.
Okay, so basically I will start, but I hope that counselors will chime in. We created this because we went as far as we thought we could go and needed other experts in other areas. We selected, everybody nominated people who had expertise in some area, and the discussion of expectations pursuant to this resolution, in my opinion, are that we gave you a starting point, and our expectations are for you to give us a finish line. Do what you will with it. There are really, I don't know that, and counselors chime in anytime. In my opinion, there are no rules exactly, just to start by looking at the Sparks plan, and if you want to add, delete. Will, you pulled your microphone, or Councilor Joyce, do you want to chime in?
I can.
No? Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, we did pass we adopted the conceptual plan that Gary Sparks put together for us. That's the starting point that we'd like for you all to start with. And generally, that's the idea we're hoping to see. But the specifics of what's where and exactly, which of those elements is on it, we'd love to see what you guys come up with. But the idea is that concept fleshed out and with an implementation plan to get to the end, to get it finished.
And of course, we vote on it at the end again, but I think that, if there's some things that you think would be better when you're looking at that plan, then we want to hear your recommendations. Vice Mayor.
Oh, I was just looking at the actual resolution, and it, number one is we develop the site plan. You develop a final site plan consistent with the plan that we adopted in July, the Gary Sparks. And I did speak at that time quite a bit about the possibility for latitude that you have. And so, as the mayor said, and will, take that conceptual plan and make it great. Secondly, determining the cost of construction and improvements for the final site plan, and we have some help on that help for you, and then recommendations for financing and construction, and that you have the ability to, and this is all in the resolution, but the ability to ask anybody outside of your committee, outside of your task force, to help you. And there were so many
Yes.
people who volunteered to be on the task force that those are easy people to suggest that you contact in their areas of expertise, and we'd be happy to give you those names and any other names.
And any other names, and you can bring forth people that you think that you would like to hear from. I think that's the beauty of this plan, is that it still isn't just 5 people. It's 5 people running it, but get some outside opinions if you want. And as Vice Mayor said, come back with something great. No, no pressure.
I mean, really, if you want to make it better than great, that would be just fine, too.
I think what's important, at least in my mind, is that each of you were chosen to be on this committee because you're going to look at this project with different lenses based on what your background is. And that's what we want. I hope there's some healthy dialogue. You guys aren't going to agree on things. I hope there's healthy discussion. You each have a different lens in how you're going to look at this project. And we're not necessarily starting from scratch. We have a common ground. We have an idea of what we'd like to see on there. What we'd hope will happen is that you guys will take what it is that your perception and your viewpoint is and be able to work together to figure out how to build on it from there. I have every confidence that you guys will utilize the people that you know. You'll utilize what your own backgrounds are, and I hope that that's really, I think, what this committee is for. And the beauty of it is there's not 25 of you. The beauty of it is there's a smaller group, which hopefully, in the end, will lend itself to a more productive and less challenging decision-making.
And I saw a question in the crowd. Mr. Fowler?
You hit on it right after I raised
Okay.
my hand. So
Okay.
talked about a starting point, and I was asking about
Okay.
that.
All right, at this time, do you have any questions before anybody else? Counselor Wedlake?
Well, I mean, just to piggyback on what's already been said, I mean, I think the idea here is to kind of look at this as a cultural hub. Everything we have kind of talked about up to this point, and the points that we've arrived to as far as we can go, all kind of encompass this idea of culture. And so everybody's going to have a different viewpoint of what that means exactly, but that's kind of the beauty of this committee, is getting different viewpoints and differing ideas, and finally arriving at something that works for the betterment of our community and our citizens. So to that end, we wish you good luck, but I think the overarching concept here is culture, and I hope you use that as your framework going forward. I will say that we agreed on the Sparks plan that had several things in it that some of us agreed on, some of us disagreed, but that idea of encompassing things that people can come and enjoy is something that I think is a good starting point for you guys. So.
And I think one last thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to the city manager. It's the center of town. Pretend like it's the center of town. It's our gathering spot. What do we do there? Mr. McNichol, you had a few things.
John and I have not rehearsed this tonight, so I may be stealing his thunder or vice versa. But we have a great deal of history on this issue, and we have reduced that to a spot in the cloud. And so if you are bereft of things to read at night, we can supply you with several weeks of reading enjoyment. There will be an organizational meeting where Mr. Dorman will tutor you on Open Meeting and Open Records Act, because these meetings will be public meetings with agendas. And you will also receive information on that. Probably your most difficult, and we can certainly have a longer discussion at the appropriate time, but probably your most difficult task is financing once you come up with a plan. I've already heard that in a previous presentation here tonight, that recommended tax increment financing district is designed to accomplish Block 34. It is not. That is not to fund those projects. So as we roll along, I'm sure you're going to have questions. The mayor's already told you we'll make anybody available to you that you deem necessary to accomplish your task.
And there will be someone from city staff in every meeting that you have, correct?
You will have an able note taker, and Patty Osmus will also develop your agenda. I believe Ms. Dennison will also be involved in your meetings.
And we will have
Somebody from my office.
from the legal
Probably
office,
a couple of meetings.
just to make sure that keep you in the open meetings and open records and all of that.
And when you all get that figured out, well, never mind. What am I missing, Mr. Dorman?
I think you've kind of hit on those major points. I mean, the big deal that's coming up right now is your organizational meeting, and did you? I think there was a Thursday night of this week date that was maybe kicked around as a possible date. I'm seeing heads shaking.
And there's two of us that can't, we're otherwise occupied.
There's a significant event occurring downtown in the RDC.
Okay. Well, I think it's very important that all five are at.
We need to have all five there, and that's just critical. But we can get some dates. We'll circulate some additional dates. The other thing we want to do is get you access to a city
Email address.
internet address, and that is to protect your personal email and to basically provide a location for people to send things, because there's a lot of public interest in this, and having one central location for everything to go, which is accessible by all five of you, I think will make things move a lot better, and it will increase the transparency, because I mean, everything that happens for your board and all of the information that you receive from the public, that's all a matter of public record. We want to make sure that there's not one nice place for all of it to go, so that there's no question that if something happens along the way.
Yes, so we are trying to help you in every way that we can. Of course, if you have questions and staff need to bring those questions to any of us, then that will happen. I think the thing you need to do is probably elect a chairman, a chairperson, but that's up to you, and that's the first meeting.
That will be at the first meeting, right? We've got that. And if you have things you want to add to this, I just thought this up about 30 minutes ago. So, I mean, it's kind of put together quickly. I know Jim probably can recognize some of my work. But you can certainly contact Patty or me, and we can get that added too.
So open meetings actually, is a requirement in regards to time of day that you meet. I mean, my career is a problem, but can you do it during the lunch hour, or is it 7 o'clock in the morning kind of thing, or is there?
It just has to be open and accessible at a reasonable time. Now, if you wanted to meet at 3 a.m., that's probably a problem. But if you wanted to meet at 3 p.m. or at lunchtime or at 7 o'clock in the morning, all of those are probably reasonable.
And they would meet here
They could meet here, meet the library.
or in a public space.
In a public facility. That's the only requirement.
Are weekends considered normal hours?
We've done retreats on Saturdays. That doesn't seem to be a problem. Sundays, I think, are probably off limits. Holidays certainly would be off limits. But other than that, I think if you wanted to have a day-long program on a Saturday or something like that to spend a lot of time on it, that's a possibility. We just have to look at it in the context in which you want to do it.
And I think that a good guide for you is once you do elect a chairperson, then Mr. Dorman's office is just really helpful with questions like that. You should always probably check in with his office before you set a date or do anything like that. And contacting Patty Osmus. She can also handle things, get the questions answered that you need. So just chairperson maybe checking in with legal, and you'll have your training too. So anything else? Okay,
I'm just bringing this up for my own memory, and everything is in the resolution. I have to remind myself that you are doing your work independent of any input from the counselors. So remind me if I...
This is your project now. We have turned it over to you.
Yeah, and I just, along those lines, would add that we want your best recommendation on what should happen and how it can happen. If that's entirely different than maybe what you think we want to hear, we certainly don't, we want your best recommendation. If that's this, we love to have this beautiful thing, but there's just no way we can finance it. If there's, if the answer is,
Try again.
this isn't going to work right now, then that's the answer. And so we don't want you to feel like you have to come up with some plan that isn't really feasible or anything like that. So if the answer's no, or not yet, that's fine too. We want to know. We want you all to be able to come up with whichever answer is the best one based on all the circumstances we're faced with.
Absolutely. Let's establish a timeline. So item 2, timeline for completion of the task.
That's kind of up to you. There are 3 tasks or 4 tasks. If you decide there's nothing, you could ask that the things be done incrementally, or you could ask for a report at the end, which is probably the more efficient way to do it. But I think the 2 groups need to decide kind of when this all needs to wind up.
Could we get a recommendation from them once they meet, what they would like to do? As far as a timeline, I think since you're working on it, it should be maybe it should be your decision to tell us. Okay. Counselors, are you okay with that?
Assuming next week is too early.
Yeah, I was going to say
Friday.
October 1st is fine, yeah.
To get their recommendation on timeline?
And that gives them time to meet and, yeah, okay. Okay, and then,
I will say that, I don't know how closely it's been followed, but in order to help kind of frame a timeline, staff actually made a recommendation for a stepwise plan going forward with Block 34 that may help serve as a framework for you guys developing a timeline. I think there were 4 steps involved in it, starting with ground infrastructure all the way up to finished structures. So that's something that may help you guys.
and they would get that as part of when they have their first.
They could look at that, yeah.
Well, and certainly you can send written reports to the council anytime.
Okay. Mr. Dorman, the votes, do we need,
Well, I don't know. It sounds like everything's pretty much, is there any need for anything to be changed or added to the resolution, or is there any special direction that anybody needs?
I think have an unofficial conversation about us 5, and maybe you get together in right after this meeting and get that big thing up.
Oh, to select a date? I think that we'll find a way to make that work, sure.
Okay.
If that's all we're doing is picking a date, I don't think that's going to be a problem, and we'll announce that.
okay.
Are there any concerns we have about, just in terms of discussion, can one member of the task force and one member of the council talk about this issue? Is that?
That's kind of up to the task force member, quite
Okay.
frankly. The resolution does say it's hands-off,
Okay.
and so if you honor the spirit of the resolution.
So
then
no.
That's fine.
If someone
wanted to make it
solicits you,
clear.
that's one thing, but if it's the opposite.
So we shouldn't be soliciting them.
Right,
to
nor
see-
should
yeah,
staff.
Right. So if you solicit, I would go through staff first, probably, and Mr. McNichol.
Never going to talk to you again.
Yeah. You have a plethora of people you can contact. Me, Dan Blankenship, Deputy City Manager, Patty, John, John's paralegal Melody, I think, are all people that you can contact if you
And-
need something.
Do you have those phone numbers, or?
We'll make all that available.
Okay. So, once again, we appreciate you so much, and you do have a very big, important, and hopefully fun task ahead of you, and no pressure on the timeline. And you were each brought here for a reason, and we all had reasons why you were nominated, and you heard them. And we want you to bring your passion for Stillwater and your expertise and other voices in on this. This is a big deal for Stillwater. And what Mr. McNichol was saying about the TIF not being a part of this, but the TIF helping the whole area around this is a big deal. So thank you for showing up tonight. We will leave you to speak with Mr. Dorman afterward. And anytime you have a question, just remember, he'll remind you what not to do, because we value transparency and want to follow all of the rules. So rather than think you know the answer, if you're not sure, make sure you find out before you would do anything. With that said, anybody else? Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please vote. And with a vote of 5-0, we are adjourned, and once again, thank you.